Hey everyone. Welcome back to Six Path Weeb. Today, we're diving into the next thrilling chapter of our fanfic series. What if Naruko became a rogue shinobi? Part 3. Before we begin, a quick disclaimer, this content is purely for entertainment and discussion purposes. I do not own any of the anime footage featured in my videos, all rights go to their respective creators and copyright holders. Now, without further ado, let's jump right in. It was nearly sunset when Team 20 finally glimpsed the towering mountains that cradled their village. As they leapt effortlessly from branch to branch, the sight of home brought a small smile to Karu's face. "We're finally back," she said with relief. They had been traveling almost non-stop since leaving the land of waves. Daru didn't want to risk Konoha sending anyone after Naruko, and Naruko herself was eager to return home and begin training in her clan's sealing techniques. "It'll be a change of pace, but once we get back, we'll report directly to the Raikage and debrief," Daru instructed. "After that, Naruko, Yugito, you'll go find B and start working with your tenants. Karu, you'll be training with me in Kenjutsu." His team nodded, though curiosity flickered across their faces. "Daru-sensei, why are we suddenly increasing our training?" Yugito asked, echoing the thoughts of Karu and Naruko, who both nodded in agreement. Daru sighed. He knew his team wouldn't overlook such a drastic shift in their schedule. They would want answers, and he wasn't sure how they'd react to the reason. "The Chunin exams are coming up, and I want you all to be ready," he explained. His students didn't look satisfied with this answer. In fact, they seemed even more puzzled. They were already operating at a level that could easily secure a Chunin rank. Naruko's expression darkened as realization struck her. "The exams are being held in Konoha this year, aren't they?" she asked, her voice laced with frustration. Karu and Yugito stiffened before exchanging glances of understanding. Their expressions quickly shifted to concern for their blonde teammate. "Yes, they are," Daru confirmed. "I'd prefer to wait until they're hosted elsewhere or here in Kumo, but I don't have that luxury. It's in the village's best interest to send strong representatives. You three are among the most promising teams Kumo has produced, with potential comparable to Kakashi Hatake in his youth." He crossed his arms, his usual laid-back demeanor replaced by a hardened, determined gaze. While deception is a shinobi's greatest weapon, strength must also be displayed. It deters enemies, preventing unnecessary conflicts and war. Because of that, I will be nominating you for the exams. We won't take on many missions when we return, only enough to meet the requirement. For the next 3 months, your training will be relentless. You need to be prepared for anything that might happen. Understood? Naruko and her teammates nodded in unison. They knew they needed to be strong, not just for the exams but also to protect themselves from any attempts Konoha might make to reclaim the rightful heir of Minato Namikaze. A few minutes later, they arrived at the village gates and wasted no time heading straight to the Raikage's office. Upon entering, they found the Raikage surrounded by Chunin and Jounin, all reviewing mission reports and assignments. "Boss, mission to protect bridge builder Tazuna is complete," Daru reported. However, there were a few complications. The Raikage raised an eyebrow. C-ranked missions rarely encountered serious issues. "What kind of complications?" he asked. The client was dishonest about the mission details. He claimed he needed protection from common bandits, but in reality, he was being targeted by ninja, Daru explained, catching the attention of several shinobi in the room. "This elevated the mission to B rank, and it escalated to A rank when we encountered Zabuza Momochi, the demon of the mist, along with his accomplice." The room fell silent. The name Zabuza Momochi carried weight, especially in Kumo, where the 7 swordsmen of the mist were both respected and feared for their unparalleled swordsmanship. For a rookie Jinan team to face such an adversary and survive, let alone succeed, was extraordinary. That wasn't the only surprise, Daru continued. The client had also requested help from another village. On our way to meet him, we discovered another Jinan team had already been assigned to protect him. The Raikage's expression hardened. "Which village?" Daru exhaled before answering. "Konoha." The atmosphere in the room shifted instantly. Even the Jounin preparing to leave for missions tensed at the mention of Konoha. If the Hidden Leaf discovered that the heir of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki was now part of Kumagakure, it could lead to serious diplomatic tension, or worse. Yes, they were from Konoha, Daru confirmed. And their team leader was none other than the copy ninja, Kakashi Hatake, the 4th Hokage's former student. Murmurs rippled through the room. If anyone would recognize Naruko, it would be Kakashi. And surprisingly, his team's skills were underwhelming, Daru added. Given their roster, I expected much more. The Raikage narrowed his eyes. Who was on his team? Sasuke Uchiha, the sole survivor of the Uchiha clan, and heiress to two notable clans, Sakura Haruno of the Haruno clan and Ino Yamanaka of the Yamanaka clan. Despite their prestigious lineage, their abilities were lacking. The two kunoichi were more focused on impressing the Uchiha than training, and as for Sasuke, while he has talent, he is arrogant and expects everything to be handed to him. That caught the attention of the room. Konoha was known for fostering elite shinobi, but this team's dynamic didn't sound promising. The mission itself was largely successful, Daru continued. Naruko fought Zabuza's accomplice alongside the Uchiha, but she kept her true skills hidden. When their opponent used a jutsu called Crystal Ice Mirrors, he gained a significant advantage. Naruko avoided injury, but the Uchiha was caught off guard and suffered considerable damage. Naruko attempted to counter with fire jutsu, but the mirrors were chakra reinforced and remained intact. She then used Kurama's chakra to break through with a powerful strike and escaped with Sasuke. Before their opponent could attack again, Yugito eliminated him with a well-placed kunai. Daru paused, letting the information settle before Naruko stepped forward. After that, Gato arrived with an army of mercenaries, she said, her voice calm yet firm. He threatened to harm us and made inappropriate remarks about Yugito, Karu, and the Leaf Kunoichi. Naruko's expression darkened slightly, and a subtle shift in the air signaled a flicker of her chakra. Many in the room stiffened. They knew how fiercely protective Naruko was of her teammates. When he said that, I lost my patience, she continued. I activated my cloak, charged into his forces, and engaged them using my ninjato. When I reached Gato, I ended the fight immediately. The room remained silent. Naruko's ability to single-handedly take down an entire mercenary force without sustaining injury was both impressive and intimidating. If that wasn't enough, the remaining mercenaries reacted poorly, shouting similar threats. I tapped into more of Kurama's chakra, enhanced my flames, and neutralized the remaining threats. No one threatens my teammates in my presence without consequences. The weight of her words settled over the room. The shinobi present exchanged glances, each making a mental note, never, under any circumstances, cross Naruko Uzumaki when it came to her team. Speaking of Yugito, she stepped forward and gently embraced Naruko in a calming hug, instantly easing the tension and dissipating the intense energy radiating from the blonde. The Raikage and his assistants sighed in relief as the heavy atmosphere lifted. Just like her father before her, she already possesses the strength to stand against entire armies. I can only hope that no one makes the mistake of insulting or threatening Yugito in Naruko's presence, especially if she isn't there to calm her down, thought A as he finished writing the mission report. Alright, Team 20, you're dismissed. Daru, I need a word with you, said the Raikage. The team nodded and left, with Daru assuring them he would catch up later for training. Turning back to his leader, Daru had a strong suspicion about what this conversation would be about but chose to wait for the Raikage to bring it up. Daru, as you know, the Chunin exams are approaching. Do you believe your team is ready? Absolutely, boss. They're more than prepared, but with 3 months left, I plan to train them as much as possible. They'll only complete the required number of missions to qualify, but most of our focus will be on honing their skills. If that's all, I should get started on their training. Oh, before I forget, B and Dodai will be assisting me, so they won't be available much during this time. See you later, Daru said before leaving the office to begin training his team. Those three will be incredibly powerful when they reach their full potential. That's a day I look forward to, thought A as he returned to assigning missions and reviewing reports. The next day, Daru stood in front of a refreshed and determined Team 20, with Killer B by his side. Dodai wouldn't be joining them until the end of the week. They had just finished explaining the specialized training schedule, and to no one's surprise, the team accepted it without hesitation. Alright, team, to start off, each of you will focus on different areas of training. Karu, you and I will work on Kenjutsu. Yugito, you'll be training with B to gain better control over Matatabi's chakra. Naruko, I want you to go through the scrolls you recovered from that bandit camp during our first C-rank mission. Each of them nodded, understanding their tasks for the day. Let's get started, Daru said, and with that, they all moved to their respective training areas. Naruko settled under the shade of a large tree and unsealed a chest containing the Uzumaki clan scrolls she had retrieved from the bandit camp. Biting her thumb, she pressed a drop of blood onto the intricate seal at the center of the clan's emblem. A soft click signaled that the chest had unlocked. Opening it, Naruko took a moment to decide where to begin. She recalled learning about the second Hokage wielding the Raijin back at the academy. Intrigued, she reached for a scroll that matched the color of her own hair. Pressing another drop of blood onto the seal on the scroll's exterior, she carefully unrolled it, revealing crisp, clear handwriting. It must be due to the Uzumaki clan's expertise in sealing techniques. Even the slightest imperfection in a seal could cause the entire structure to fail, Naruko thought before beginning to read. To any future Uzumaki. My name is Totosai Uzumaki, Master Weapons Forger of the Uzumaki clan. This scroll, along with its 4 counterparts, contains everything I know about the art of forging, as well as details about my greatest creations, the elemental swords. Just a heads up, this introduction is included in all of the scrolls, so no need to reread it each time. Now, on to the real purpose of this scroll. The elemental swords were among the most prized weapons of the Uzumaki clan. I was inspired to create them after witnessing the raw, untamed power of nature during a storm. I know what you're thinking, that sounds reckless, but trust me, sometimes inspiration strikes in the most unexpected ways. Each of the 5 swords is named after a deity representing an element. Fuujin, the god of wind. Kajijin, the god of fire. Suijin, the god of water. Chijin, the god of earth. Raijin, the god of thunder. This particular scroll is about Raijin, as its title suggests. At first glance, Raijin may seem like nothing more than a simple metal handle. However, when infused with chakra, its true form is revealed, a blade of pure lightning, capable of cutting through nearly anything. The only exceptions are the other elemental swords. Forging this weapon was no easy task. Due to the immense power it would need to hold, I spent nearly a year searching for the right material to craft its handle. My search finally led me to a rare ore I named Raikane, a unique metal that naturally produces an electric current and can store vast amounts of energy. With Raikane in hand, I immediately began forging Raijin. It took a full year to complete the physical structure, but there was still one step left, infusing it with the raw power of lightning. This task was beyond my abilities alone, so I enlisted the help of the clan's most skilled seal masters to develop a method of capturing and channeling lightning into the sword. But something extraordinary happened during the process. Just as we began infusing the blade, a bolt of lightning, blacker than an Uchiha's eyes, descended from the sky and struck the Raijin. Instead of dissipating, the lightning was absorbed into the blade, sealing its power within. To this day, I still don't fully understand what occurred, but with that final surge of energy, Raijin was complete. That's all the knowledge I can share regarding Raijin, as it has been nearly 60 years since I forged the elemental swords. However, I can tell you where it rests. High atop the mountains, in the heart of the storm, the Raijin waits to be reborn. Good luck. Totosai Uzumaki. Naruko's eyes gleamed with excitement as she read the scroll. If this sword truly existed, and if she could find it, then she would gain a weapon unlike any other. With renewed determination, she carefully rolled up the scroll and placed it back into the chest. This journey would not be easy, but if there was one thing she knew for certain, it would be worth it. That hardly explained anything about the Raijin. Well, it was better than nothing. If what Totosai had said was true, then the Raijin should have been securely sealed away. If the second Hokage had wielded the Raijin, it meant he had somehow managed to access an Uzumaki stronghold and retrieve it. If that was the case, then there was a possibility that the others had been discovered as well. As the last remaining Uzumaki, it was Naruko's responsibility to reclaim them, ensuring her clan's legacy remained intact. Closing the scroll with a sense of determination, Naruko carefully placed it back into the chest. Glancing up, she noticed that her teammates were still occupied with their training under their senseis. Deciding to make the most of her time, she turned her focus to learning her clan's renowned sealing techniques. Retrieving a large black scroll, she pressed her thumb against it, smearing a bit of blood over the central seal. The moment her blood made contact, the scroll unfurled, revealing the introductory lessons of the Uzumaki clan's sealing arts. Just as she was about to start reading, her eyes landed on a small storage seal in the corner of the scroll, marked by a chibi drawing of an Uzumaki pointing at it. Curious about its contents, she decided to unseal it. As the faint smoke cleared, a much smaller scroll was revealed. Opening it, she discovered that it contained instructions for an Uzumaki clan technique, the Shadow Clone Jutsu. Her curiosity piqued, Naruko eagerly read through the details of the technique. What she learned nearly made her burst with excitement. Unlike standard clones, this jutsu created fully independent duplicates that could transfer their experiences and knowledge back to the original upon dispersal. This ability made it invaluable for reconnaissance and intelligence-gathering missions, significantly reducing the risks to her team. More importantly, she realized that by using shadow clones, she could accelerate her training exponentially. Without wasting a moment, she set the scroll aside and attempted the jutsu. To her delight, she grasped the technique almost instantly, producing around 30 clones on her first try. This just made things much more interesting, she thought, sharing an unspoken agreement with the powerful being within her. Without hesitation, she and her clones dove headfirst into mastering the art of sealing, determined to unlock the full potential of her Uzumaki heritage. 3 months later, a massive crowd had gathered at the main gates of Kumagakure, comprised of civilians and shinobi alike. All had assembled to witness the departure of one of the most promising teams to emerge from their village. Before them stood Team 20, their gazes filled with determination. They were ready to prove themselves, to earn the rank of Chunin, and to bring honor to their village. At the forefront of the gathering stood the Reikage, accompanied by B and Dodai on his left, while Team 20's sensei stood on his right. Daru couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. Over the past 3 months, the team had made remarkable progress. While many civilians believed they had already reached their peak, he knew they were only just beginning to tap into their true potential. Naruko's appearance had changed significantly during this time. She now wore black Onbu-style pants lined with hidden storage seals, along with a sleeveless black shirt that showcased her toned physique. Since dedicating herself to the study of sealing techniques, she had adopted a cloak reminiscent of her father's, though with her own unique design. Instead of a white cloak with red flames, she wore a high-collared blood-red cloak adorned with 2 intricately designed 9-tailed foxes. Their heads rested near her shoulders, mouths open as if ready to protect her. Between them, the kanji for Kumo's black fox was inscribed. Her ninjato was strapped to her back, and she wore her headband tied around her left bicep. Another notable change was the presence of tattoos on her arms, marking her mastery of elemental affinities. On her right shoulder, the kanji for lightning remained, now accompanied by earth beneath it. On her left, the kanji for wind was paired with fire. These symbols signified her dedication to mastering multiple elemental techniques. Over the months, Naruko had progressed immensely, mastering a significant portion of the Uzumaki clan's sealing techniques through the extensive use of shadow clones. But sealing wasn't the only area in which she had grown. She had trained under Dodai, one of Kumagakure's most skilled lava release users, honing her fire and earth affinities. Wind manipulation had proven the most challenging due to the rarity of wind users, even in Sunagakure. She had also begun learning techniques passed down from the third Reikage, though she was far from mastering them. However, she had managed to execute one of the techniques, even if only briefly. As she looked out over the gathered crowd, her right arm instinctively slipped around Yugito's waist, pulling her close. Yugito's appearance had not changed drastically, though she had made a few refinements. She still wore her black pants decorated with a cloud pattern, paired with her signature black and purple blouse. However, she now had black wrappings extending to her elbows, along with her usual purple fingerless gloves and a string of beads wrapped around her left forearm. Her shuriken holster remained on her right leg, while her new wakizashi rested at her left hip. The most significant addition to her outfit was a regal, high-collared purple cloak, embroidered with 2 stylized 2-tailed cats. The cloak had been a gift from Naruko, a token of their growing bond. 2 months prior, Naruko had finally mustered the courage to ask Yugito to be her girlfriend, and since then, their relationship had flourished. As they prepared to embark on their journey, Naruko couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. The road ahead would be challenging, but with her team by her side, she was ready to face whatever lay ahead. During her 3 months of training, Naruko had finally learned to harness Matatabi's second tail while using her chakra cloak, maintaining control without losing herself to its power. In addition to that, she had mastered the elemental manipulation of both her fire and lightning affinities. However, the most exciting revelation came from Matatabi herself. Now that Naruko could wield her 2-tailed cloak, she was ready to begin learning some of Matatabi's unique techniques. She had dedicated most of her training time to working alongside Matatabi, refining these new abilities. As she stood there, she felt a familiar arm wrap around her waist. Without hesitation, she leaned into the embrace, letting her partner hold her close. Kairo watched the scene with a fond smile. When the two had announced their relationship, her immediate response had been to exclaim, "It's about time." She, like her teammates, had updated her outfit during their training. She now wore a gray, high-collared shirt that opened slightly at the front, with the sleeves removed for better movement. She paired it with form-fitting black shorts that reached mid-thigh, complemented by black stockings that extended just past her knees. Over this, she wore a long black skirt with an open front for mobility. Her katana remained strapped to her back, and she continued to wear her headband as a bandana. Kairo hadn't been idle in her training either. She had spent extensive time practicing with Daru to improve her swordsmanship, as well as studying techniques from her clan scrolls. She had successfully mastered her water and lightning affinities, expanding her range of techniques and ensuring she had a strong balance of both elements. Daru approached the group, stepping away from the cheering crowd. It was time for their journey to begin. Looking toward the assembled villagers, he spoke in his usual laid-back tone. "Well, things might get a little quieter around here, but I can assure you, my team will return as full-fledged Chunin." The crowd erupted in cheers, showing their support. The members of Team 20 stood a little taller, feeling the trust and encouragement of their village. "Take care of them, Daru," the Raikage, instructed firmly. "And I expect to see all three of you in the finals of the Chunin exams." The team nodded in acknowledgement. B stepped forward, crouching slightly to meet Naruko and Yugito's gazes. "Stay sharp, you two," he advised seriously. "Konoha already knows Naruko is the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails, which means they'll be keeping an eye on her. Try to stay under the radar until my brother and I arrive for the finals. If they discover there's another Jinchuriki among you or attempt anything suspicious, you have my permission to defend yourselves. Understood?" The two blondes nodded in agreement, fully aware of the risks. If Konoha caught wind of another Jinchuriki within their borders, there was no doubt they would attempt to intervene. "All right, team. Let's move," Daru instructed, turning toward the path leading away from the village. Taking one last look at their home, Team 20 followed their sensei down the mountain. Behind them, the gathered villagers watched with pride, the warm glow of the setting sun casting a golden hue over the departing trio as they stepped forward into the next phase of their journey. Near the lightning fire country border. After 3 hours of travel, they neared the border separating the land of lightning from the land of fire. A thought suddenly occurred to Naruko. "Hey, Daru-sensei, why isn't Samui and Amoi's team taking the Chunin exams with us?" Her teammates turned toward their sensei, also curious about the answer. Daru sighed. She didn't think they were ready yet. Samui and Amoi work well together, and their teamwork is nearly flawless. However, Sumaki refuses to cooperate. According to she's still overly fixated on you, Naruko. No matter what he's tried, he can't seem to change her mindset. Because of that, he didn't enter them in the exams. As a team, they're just not prepared. Naruko suppressed a shudder as she recalled her past encounters with Sumaki. She had met her on her first day at the academy, where Sumaki had tried to insult Yugito and convince Naruko to distance herself from her. Since then, Sumaki had never stopped pestering her, constantly asking for attention, trying to change her friendships, and refusing to take no for an answer. There had been moments where Naruko had struggled to keep her composure, but fortunately, Yugito and their friends had always been there to help her stay grounded. Yugito and Kaoru exchanged knowing looks, both frowning at the memory. Yugito, in particular, tightened her grip on Naruko's hand slightly, a subtle sign of her protective nature surfacing. Daru glanced at his team and decided it was best to rest for the night. "All right, we'll set up camp here. We'll leave at first light." Setting his travel pack down, he began preparing the campsite. The others followed suit, each setting up their own tents and placing a few protective traps around the perimeter. "Naruko, why don't you go find us some dinner? But be careful, we're close to the border, and Leaf Onbu might be nearby." Naruko nodded, understanding the importance of caution. If Kakashi had mentioned her in his reports, the Hokage would likely have issued orders to capture her if she was spotted. With that in mind, she disappeared into the trees, moving swiftly and silently as she set out to gather food for the group. Naruko moved swiftly through the dense forest, scanning her surroundings for anything suitable to bring back for dinner. A wild boar or a few rabbits would be ideal. Just as she was about to continue her search, she spotted a boar in the distance. Perfect, she thought, carefully approaching her target as silently as possible. Drawing her ninjato, she infused it with wind chakra and released a sharp blade of air toward the animal. The boar barely had time to react before it collapsed, a deep cut marking its side. Without hesitation, Naruko sealed the boar into a storage scroll, ensuring it would be easy to transport back to camp. She was just about to head back when she sensed multiple chakra signatures approaching. Her eyes narrowed. That's not my team. And the way their chakra is masked, they must be Onbu. Her suspicions were confirmed moments later when 4 masked figures surrounded her. 3 wore black cloaks, while the 4th, standing at the front, was dressed in white. The masks of the black-cloaked operatives bore the designs of a snake, a turtle, and a cat, while the white-cloaked figure had the face of a dog. If I remember correctly, a white cloak signifies an Onbu captain, While black cloaks indicate standard Onbu operatives, Naruko assessed as the leader stepped forward. Naruko Uzumaki, you are to come with us immediately. The voice was familiar, but Naruko couldn't place it right away. Deciding to stall for time, she kept her expression unreadable and responded calmly. I'm sorry, but I don't know anyone by that name, she said evenly. If you'll excuse me, I need to return to my team. We have an early start tomorrow. As she attempted to walk past them, the turtle-masked Onbu stepped into her path. My mistake. I meant Naruko Namikaze. You are to return to Konoha with us. Naruko's eyes widened slightly at the use of her true surname. The tone of voice, she had heard it before. Then, it clicked. Well. Kakashi Hatake. It's been a while, she said, amusement creeping into her voice. The rest of the Onbu squad flinched slightly. How had she identified their leader so quickly? I'm surprised, Kakashi, she continued. I thought you left Onbu to train your team. I was reinstated for this mission, Kakashi admitted, removing his mask. All of us here were assigned to Onbu for this task alone. Remove your masks. One by one, the other members followed suit, revealing familiar faces. So, the Hokage thought sending people I was once close to would persuade me to return, Naruko mused, her voice carrying an unmistakable edge. Or was it because you're all experts in your fields? Let me guess, Kurenai was meant to trap me in a genjutsu for an easy capture, while the rest of you were backup in case I broke free. Guy, to wear me down in close combat. Anko, to track and contain me if I tried to escape. And you, Kakashi, to confirm my identity and counter me with ninjutsu as a last resort. The four shinobi were visibly taken aback. Naruko had analyzed their entire strategy as if it were an open book. No time to waste, they'll recover from their shock any moment now, she thought, beginning to channel lightning chakra throughout her body. A crackling sound filled the air, snapping the Onbu out of their daze. Their eyes widened as they saw Naruko encased in a shimmering aura of electricity. In an instant, she vanished from their sight, streaking away at blinding speed. Darn it, she got away, Anko muttered, staring at the empty space where Naruko had stood just moments ago. That technique. I've never seen anything like it, Kurenai observed, turning to Kakashi for an explanation. It's called the lightning style armor, Kakashi said grimly. One of Kumagakure's most advanced techniques. By channeling lightning chakra through the nervous system, the user drastically enhances their speed and reflexes. It's a jutsu traditionally reserved for the Raikage. If Naruko has mastered it, she's either being trained directly by the Raikage or is considered the next in line for the position. Either way, Kumo won't give her up easily. Retrieving her just became significantly more difficult. Replacing his mask, Kakashi turned and signaled for his team to return to Konoha. Meanwhile, Naruko raced through the trees, her thoughts a whirlwind of emotions. I can't believe them. They always claimed they wanted what was best for me, yet they tried to force me back to that village. Just as she was about to deactivate her technique, her chakra fluctuated. Losing control of the jutsu, she crashed through several tree branches before landing abruptly in the center of her camp. Yugito, who had been sitting with her teammate and sensei while waiting for Naruko to return with dinner, had just been about to suggest searching for her when a sudden impact startled the group. Naruko groaned, dusting herself off. Still haven't completely mastered that technique, she muttered. Naruko, what happened? Daru asked, his tone serious. He had made her promise not to use that jutsu unless absolutely necessary. Given their proximity to the border, he had a strong suspicion about what had occurred. I ran into a squad of Konoha's Onbu, Naruko informed them, immediately putting her team on high alert. Kakashi Hatake was leading them. He was there to identify me, and the rest of the squad consisted of shinobi I used to be close to. Clearly, the Hokage believed familiar faces might convince me to return. She took a breath before continuing. The team included Anko Mitarashi, an expert tracker and interrogation specialist. Might Guy, Konoha's taijutsu master. He relies almost entirely on close combat, with little proficiency in ninjutsu or genjutsu. And Kurenai Yuhi, Konoha's genjutsu mistress. As her title suggests, she's highly skilled in illusions but lacks strong abilities in other areas. Her teammates exchanged concerned looks. If Konoha was willing to send such highly skilled shinobi after Naruko, they would need to be extra cautious moving forward. The road ahead was more dangerous than ever, and they could not afford to let their guard down. I'm Naruko Uzumaki, Kunoichi of Team 20, she said calmly, keeping her expression neutral while subtly staying alert. Izumo and Kotetsu exchanged a glance, momentarily caught off guard by the name. The resemblance was unmistakable, the bright blonde hair, the striking blue eyes. It was clear that she was related to a certain legendary figure of Konoha's past. However, they were professionals and knew better than to make a scene. "All right, everything checks out," Kotetsu said after a brief pause. He scribbled their names onto the report before handing back the documents. "Welcome to Konohagakure. The Chunin exams registration is at the academy, you'll want to head there first. Try not to cause any trouble." Daru gave a nod. "Understood. Let's go." As Team 20 walked through the gates, Naruko felt a wave of emotions rush over her. This was the village where she was born, the place that had once been her home. Though she outwardly remained composed, inside she couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen. Whether it would be good or bad, only time would tell. Her teammates stayed close, each sensing the tension in the air. They were in enemy territory now, or at least, that's how it felt. "Stay sharp," Daru murmured. "We're being watched." Naruko didn't need to be told twice. She could feel the weight of countless gazes upon her, some filled with curiosity, others with suspicion. She had trained hard for this moment, and she wasn't about to let the past dictate her future. With silent determination, she and her team moved forward, ready for whatever came next. Naruko Uzumaki Namikaze, a skilled kunoichi of Team 20. Kotetsu and Izumo froze in place, their minds struggling to process what they had just heard. It couldn't be, this child had vanished 6 years ago. There was no way the person standing before them was truly her. Or was there? Slowly, hesitantly, they lifted their gazes to meet the one who had spoken. Spiky blonde hair, deep blue eyes that rivaled the vast ocean, and 3 distinctive whisker-like marks adorning each cheek. Their disbelief grew with every detail they took in, but as soon as their eyes settled on those unmistakable markings, they knew without a doubt, it was her. "Naruko. Is that really you?" Izumo asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The young kunoichi gave a small nod but kept her expression unreadable. Once, she might have considered them friends, but those days were long past. She had severed nearly all ties to this village, almost all. Kotetsu was about to speak when 4 Anbu operatives suddenly appeared, surrounding Naruko's team. Their captain spoke with authority. "Naruko Uzumaki, you are to come with us. The Hokage wishes to see you." Naruko studied the masked figures before her, then let out a quiet chuckle. "Really, Kakashi? I thought we had already settled this at the border," she said, her sharp gaze meeting the dog-masked Anbu. "I don't know anyone by the name of Naruko Uzumaki. If your Hokage wishes to speak with me, it will be on my terms, not by force. I am not a part of this village, and I will not be commanded." The Anbu prepared to take action, but before they could, a powerful presence made itself known. "Stand down," came the calm yet firm voice of Hiruzen Sarutobi as he stepped forward, clad in his formal cage robes. His sharp eyes assessed the scene before finally settling on the blonde-haired kunoichi. Recognition, surprise, and something deeper flickered in his gaze. "Naruko, it is good to see you again," he said, his voice carrying a warmth that did not reach his eyes. "Where have you been all this time, my child?" Naruko remained silent, her expression unreadable. The lack of response unsettled the elderly Hokage. "As I feared. Kumo has influenced her deeply. They have shaped her into someone unrecognizable, stripped her of her emotions. And that young woman beside her. She is likely meant to ensure Naruko remains loyal to Kumo, keeping her from returning to her true home in Konoha," Sarutobi thought, his gaze shifting subtly over her team. "Come, Naruko," he continued, attempting to rest a hand on her shoulder. "Let us go to my office and talk." He never got the chance to finish. Naruko swiftly knocked his hand away, and in an instant, her teammates had drawn their weapons in defense. "Do not touch me," Naruko said coldly, her tone carrying such intensity that even the surrounding leaf shinobi instinctively flinched. Sarutobi's expression darkened as his suspicions deepened. "It is worse than I thought. They must have placed some kind of loyalty seal on her," he surmised, casting a fleeting but scrutinizing glance at the Kumo team. Letting out a quiet sigh, he gave a slow nod. "Very well, Naruko," he said, his tone neutral, though there was an unmistakable edge to it. "You and your team are permitted to go." His choice of words did not go unnoticed. The way he almost spat the word team was not lost on Naruko or her companions. With weapons lowered but senses still sharp, they turned and made their way further into the village, their destination clear, a place to stay, but not a place to call home. Turning to the Anbu team, Sarutobi spoke in a firm yet composed tone. "You are relieved of your temporary assignments in Anbu. Resume your regular duties, but continue monitoring them closely. Something has been done to Naruko, and I want it resolved as soon as possible. Try to trigger some of her old memories, that may help her resist whatever influence Kumo has placed upon her. We cannot afford to lose the heir to the Namikaze and Uzumaki clans. The 4 Anbu present nodded, removing their masks and cloaks before vanishing into the village. Sarutobi sighed inwardly, watching them go. Soon, Naruko. Soon you will return to your true home, Konohagakure. With that thought, the Hokage teleported back to his office. With Team 20. The Hokage is either losing his edge with age or simply refusing to see the truth, Naruko muttered as she settled into the hotel room she and her team had booked. Daru, sitting across from her, regarded her curiously. I don't necessarily disagree, but what makes you think that? Regardless of personal opinions, the man is known as the god of Shinobi and the professor for a reason. Kaoru and Yugito nodded in agreement. Though they didn't hold much fondness for the Hokage, they acknowledged his formidable intellect. Naruko leaned back against the chair, arms crossed. A few things. First, he still sees me as an impulsive child, someone in need of guidance only he can provide. He doesn't realize I've long since outgrown that. Second, he was careful, but I noticed it. When I told him not to touch me, he gave all of you a sharp glare. And then, when dismissing us, he spoke my name with warmth while barely concealing his disdain when referring to you all as my team. Her teammates stiffened at that revelation. If I had to guess, Naruko continued, I'd say he believes someone in Kumo placed a loyalty seal or some form of manipulation on me. That assumption alone is dangerous. If he's convinced that Kumo has influenced me against my will, there's no telling how far he might go to fix it. The realization made Daru's expression darken. That is a problem. If the Hokage truly believes that, he could justify extreme measures. That's not even the worst part, Naruko added. Did you see the way he looked at Yugito-chan? He either thinks she's trying to manipulate me so Kumo can lay claim to the Namikaze and Uzumaki clans. Or that she's merely here to keep me loyal to Kumo. A tense silence settled in the room. Naruko's irritation was evident, but before she could let her frustration get the better of her, Yugito moved to sit beside her, wrapping her in a reassuring hug. The warmth of the embrace helped Naruko relax, preventing her emotions from drawing unnecessary attention. Daru sighed. You're the best profiler on this team, and you've never been wrong before. We need to be extra cautious while we're in Konoha. No one, especially you, Naruko, should go anywhere alone. We stick together at all times. The team exchanged nods of agreement. Their discussion was interrupted by a sudden knock at the door. Instantly, they were on high alert, weapons drawn and ready. Naruko glanced at Daru, who nodded in silent understanding. Forming a hand sign, she created a shadow clone and sent it to answer the door while the rest of the team remained hidden, prepared for any sign of trouble. Who is it, and what do you want? The clone asked, kunai in hand, standing in a defensive stance. The response was unexpected. It's Kakashi Hatake, Might Guy, Kurenai Yuhi, and Anko Mitarashi. We're unarmed, and we just want to talk, Kakashi's voice called from the other side. Naruko's clone narrowed its eyes. Lowering its kunai slightly, it stepped closer to the door. If they were telling the truth, there would be no harm. If they were lying, the clone would dispel and warn the real Naruko instantly. Carefully opening the door, the clone confirmed that the 4 were indeed unarmed. Even Kakashi and Guy had left their jounin vests behind as an added show of good faith. The clone dispelled any potential genjutsu but found none, then gestured for them to enter. They're telling the truth, the clone reported before vanishing in a puff of smoke. Emerging from her hiding place, Naruko stepped into the center of the room, meeting the eyes of the 4 jounin. To their surprise, none of them had sensed where she had been concealed. You wanted to talk. So talk, she said firmly. Kurenai hesitated. What about your teammates, Naruko? They prefer to remain hidden. However, should you try anything, you will see them, just before they stop you, Naruko replied calmly. The jounin flinched slightly at her tone but understood the reasoning behind it. Kakashi sighed. Naruko, we came to warn you, be cautious around the Hokage. He's not in his right mind lately. He believes Kumo has done something to you to secure your loyalty, possibly a loyalty seal or a similar technique. Naruko smirked slightly. So I was right. He truly believes Kumo manipulated me. I can assure you that no such seal or jutsu exists. Anko smiled softly. We know, little sister. That statement caught Naruko's team off guard, though Naruko herself seemed unfazed. How can you be sure? Kaoru asked skeptically. Kakashi answered, because of a certain jutsu Naruko has in her arsenal. The lightning-style armor, right? Naruko stated rather than asked. You know what it does to the body when activated? Kakashi nodded. Yes. I once faced the current Raikage and, using my Sharingan, analyzed the jutsu. Any form of mind control, including loyalty seals, works by altering neural synapses. The electrical stimulation caused by the lightning-style armor disrupts and cancels out such effects. The fact that you can use it proves you are acting of your own free will. You chose to go to Kumo. You chose to sever ties with Konoha. His words carried a somber weight. The Jounin present had once seen Naruko as family, and now they were forced to accept that she had made her choice, to leave them behind. Naruko gave them a small, sincere smile. Thank you for understanding. And while I have distanced myself from this village, I have not severed my ties with my brothers and sisters. Guy, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly burst into tears, pulling Naruko into a crushing hug. Your youthful spirit still burns brightly, little sister. Gee Guy. Can't breathe, Naruko gasped. Anko chuckled. Might want to let her go before you knock her out. Realizing his mistake, Guy quickly released her, allowing Naruko to take in deep gulps of air. Once she regained her breath, Anko moved over to hug her as well, followed by Kurenai, then Kakashi, and finally a much calmer Guy. Naruko's teammates watched with warm smiles. She had spoken of the bonds she left behind in Konoha, and now they saw them firsthand. As the hug ended, Naruko signaled her team to come out of hiding. As much as I'd love to catch up, you all have your duties. Keep this meeting a secret. The less the Hokage knows, the better. I don't want any of you getting into trouble because of me. The four Jounin nodded, exchanging quick introductions with Naruko's team before departing. Each of them left with a shared thought, when the Chunin exams are over. I'll be leaving with my little sister. 1 week later, the day of the Chunin exams. The start of the Chunin exams. The day of the Chunin exams had finally arrived. Naruko and her teammates were making their way toward the academy, where their sensei had informed them that the first portion of the exam would take place. As they walked, Naruko voiced a thought that had been on her mind. I know there are 3 parts to the Chunin exams, but what kind of test could they possibly hold at the academy? She wondered aloud. Her teammates nodded in agreement. The fact that the first part of the exam was being held at the academy made it seem either unimportant or surprisingly simple. However, they knew better than to make assumptions. Daru had instilled that lesson in them from the very beginning. Underestimating a challenge was the quickest way to fall into overconfidence, which could lead to mistakes. Upon arriving at the academy, they proceeded to the 3rd floor, where the exam was scheduled to begin. As they ascended the stairs, they noticed a group of Genin gathered around a door labeled 301. Are they really falling for such a basic genjutsu? Naruko thought, observing the confused group blocking the way. She glanced at her teammates and raised an eyebrow. They nodded in response, silently confirming that they had also seen through the illusion. Choosing to avoid unnecessary confrontation, they took an alternate hallway and made their way directly to the real examination room. As soon as they stepped into room 301, an overwhelming wave of intimidation washed over them. Many of the other hopeful participants were projecting their presence aggressively, attempting to unsettle their competition. Yugito exchanged a quick glance with Naruko, silently asking if they could have a little fun with the situation. Kaoru mirrored the same look. Naruko, catching their silent request, smirked knowingly. With a single nod, she gave her approval. The gathered Genin, who had been attempting to assert dominance with their own presence, were taken aback as an immense wave of pressure filled the room. The sheer weight of the intent coming from the Kumo team was enough to make the air feel thick and suffocating. It wasn't just the intensity of it that left the others stunned, it was the sheer control and precision with which it was wielded. It pressed down on them like a physical force, making some weaker Genin shift uncomfortably while others struggled to maintain their composure. Satisfied with the reaction, Naruko and her team took a spot near the door, quietly observing the other participants. That was entertaining, Kaoru said, still chuckling. Did you see their expressions? Absolutely priceless. It was, Naruko agreed, scanning the room. With any luck, that will be enough to discourage a few of the more cautious ones from interfering with us. Now, we just need to keep an eye out for the more reckless ones and be ready for whatever they might try. Minutes passed as the tension in the room gradually settled. Some of the stronger Genin managed to shake off the lingering unease and resumed their efforts to intimidate the newcomers. Naruko's attention was drawn to the entrance when the door opened once again. Stepping inside was Team 7, with their usual leader, Sasuke Uchiha, at the front. His teammates followed close behind. Now this just got interesting, Naruko murmured, her voice just loud enough for her team to hear. Her teammates followed her gaze to see Team 7 engaging in conversation with Team 8 and Team 10. Naruko and her teammates quickly assessed each new arrival, matching them to the descriptions they had received from her siblings. Team 8. Kiba Inuzuka, a boy with a wild demeanor, a white puppy perched on his head. He wore a gray jacket with black fur lining the hood, black shinobi pants, and had 2 red fang markings on his cheeks. Shino Aburame, a quiet figure wearing sunglasses and a high-collared gray jacket that concealed most of his face. His brown hair was neatly kept, and his posture was calm and collected. Hinata Hyuga, the only girl on the team, she wore a tan jacket with white fur at the hem, blue shinobi pants, and her forehead protector tied around her neck. Her dark blue hair and pale lavender eyes reflected her Hyuga heritage. Team 10. Shikamaru Nara, a boy with a perpetually lazy expression, black hair tied in a pineapple-like style. He wore a mesh shirt under a half-gray vest, brown pants, and had his forehead protector wrapped around his left sleeve. Choji Akimichi, a slightly chubby boy wearing a tan shirt with a red kanji, gray shorts, and bandages on his legs and forearms. He wore a green jacket over his shirt and had a white scarf wrapped around his neck. His headband rested atop his brown hair. Sai, a pale-skinned boy dressed in a black shirt that exposed part of his midsection, a black half-jacket similar to Shikamaru's, and black shinobi pants. A tanto was strapped to his back, and his dark hair partially concealed his forehead protector. His expression remained emotionless. As their conversation continued, a silver-haired boy with glasses approached them. "Let's listen in," Naruko suggested. Her teammates nodded, and with a subtle application of chakra, they enhanced their hearing to catch the conversation. With the Konoha rookies. "You rookies should really be quieter," the silver-haired boy remarked. "You're drawing a lot of attention to yourselves, especially from that Kumo team over there." Naruko's team exchanged knowing looks. Kiba scoffed and turned to glance at the Kumo team. "They don't look so tough. I bet even Sakura and Ino could take on the only shinobi in their team." His dog barked in agreement. However, before he could continue, he noticed Team 7's unusual silence. "Hey! What's up with you three?" Kiba asked, frowning. The shift in Team 7's demeanor caught the attention of the other rookies. Sakura and Ino were visibly shaken, struggling to maintain their composure. Sasuke, however, was the most surprising of all. His normally composed expression was gone, replaced by a look of unease. A noticeable sheen of sweat covered his forehead, and his gaze was locked onto Naruko with an expression bordering on fear. Shino adjusted his glasses. "Something about that Kumo team doesn't feel right." "Why do you say that?" Kiba asked. Shino remained calm. "My insects can sense chakra, and based on what they're telling me, that team is extremely powerful." The revelation caused murmurs to spread among the Konoha Jinan. If Sasuke's reaction wasn't enough to put them on edge, Shino's assessment certainly did. The silver-haired boy adjusted his glasses with a smirk. "If you want to know about the competition, I have information on everyone participating in the exams, even you rookies." He pulled out a set of orange cards. Sasuke immediately snapped out of his daze. "I want all the information you have on Gaara of the Sand, Rock Lee of Konoha, Kaoru of Kumo, Yugito Ni of Kumo, and Naruko Uzumaki Namikaze of Kumo." A collective gasp filled the room as Kabuto froze mid-motion. The moment Sasuke spoke the last name, every Konoha ninja turned their attention toward Naruko. The resemblance was undeniable. With her golden hair and striking blue eyes, she bore an uncanny similarity to the fourth Hokage. After a brief pause, Kabuto recovered and activated the cards with a small surge of chakra. "Alright, let's see what we have here." Kaoru of Kumo, her mission history consists of 15 D-rank missions and 5 C-rank missions. That's unusual, she and her team barely met the minimum requirement needed to participate. This revelation surprised the rookie Jinan. Based on Team 7's reaction, they had expected the Kumo team to have completed far more missions. Her teammates are Yugito Ni and Naruko Namikaze. Like Gaara, I don't have much information on them, but from what I've gathered, her taijutsu, genjutsu, and ninjutsu are all average. Her skills in kenjutsu, however, are slightly above average. Overall, she seems like a fairly standard kunoichi. This sparked curiosity among the rookie Jinan. She doesn't appear particularly strong. So why did Team 7 look so unsettled when they saw her team? Could it be because of one of the blondes? Next is Yugito Ni, Kaoru's teammate. Her mission history matches the rest of her team. Taijutsu, genjutsu, ninjutsu, and kenjutsu, nothing remarkable in any category. Honestly, she doesn't stand out much at all. Yugito clenched her fists slightly but kept her composure, determined not to let Kabuto's words get under her skin. Lastly, we have Naruko Namikaze. Her genjutsu is nearly non-existent, while her taijutsu, ninjutsu, and kenjutsu are slightly above average. Out of her team, she appears to pose the greatest threat, Kabuto explained. Now the rookie Jinan were confused. Team 7's reaction to the Kumo team made them seem far more formidable than Kabuto's data suggested. Before anyone could ponder this further, a sudden explosion of smoke filled the front of the room. As it cleared, a stern-looking Jonin stood before them, flanked by at least 30 Chunin. "Quiet down," the Jonin commanded, his sharp gaze sweeping the room. "My name is Iviki Morino, and I am the proctor for the first part of the Chunin exams." A murmur spread through the group, but the serious tone in his voice kept most from speaking out. "Each of you will come forward and receive a number. That number will determine your assigned seat for the written exam." Many of the participants were caught off guard by this, and an air of nervousness settled over the room. "A written exam? You've got to be kidding me," thought one of the Kumo Jinan. One by one, they stepped forward, received their assigned numbers, and took their seats. Naruko glanced around, noting Kairo was seated toward the right, Yugito toward the left, and herself in the center. This setup works in our favor, Naruko thought. With our unique way of signaling, we shouldn't have any issues. Iviki began explaining the rules of the exam, and as he spoke, concern spread across the faces of many Jinan. "You have 1 hour. The 10th and final question will be given when there are 15 minutes remaining. The first part of the Chunin exam begins now." As soon as the tests were distributed, the room fell into silence, save for the sound of scribbling pens and shifting paper. Naruko scanned the test, her sharp mind analyzing not just the questions but the intent behind them. "So that's how you want to play this, Iviki? Well, two can play that game." Tapping her desk lightly, she sent a subtle signal to her teammates. Once they acknowledged it, she began making discreet hand gestures in their coded language. "Don't answer any questions. The real test is about gathering information under pressure. The final question is probably a no-win scenario. Just act as if we don't realize the true purpose of the exam." Both Kairo and Yugito quickly signaled back in understanding. With their strategy set, the trio sat back and calmly observed as the other Jinan struggled. Naruko noticed that many of the Konoha rookies had figured it out as well, using their unique abilities to discreetly acquire answers. From the front of the room, Iviki silently observed. "So that's the Kumo team Lord Hokage asked me to watch. They're masking their true abilities well, just like real shinobi should. Judging from their relaxed posture and subtle hand movements, they've already seen through the test's purpose and are just watching the others." Just as he was about to shift his focus elsewhere, Naruko caught his attention. She was looking straight at him and making subtle hand signals, the same ones used by the interrogation department. Iviki's eyes narrowed. How does she know those signals? Not only that, but her next set of gestures made it clear she had identified something suspicious. The silver-haired Jinan with glasses knows too much. He carries classified information. And based on his scent, he has ties to snake summons. Either he's working with Orochimaru or he's unusually close to Anko, which I doubt. Iviki stiffened slightly in shock. She can detect scents that precisely? That means she has enhanced senses. Most likely due to a certain furry friend. Regaining his composure, he quickly signaled back. How do you know these signs? And how can you be certain he smells of snake summons? Naruko subtly responded, how I know them isn't important right now. As for the scent, my heightened senses don't lie. After a brief pause, Iviki signaled, understood. I'll have it investigated. By the time the 10th question was announced, only about 30 teams remained. Naruko could tell Iviki was preparing for the final part of his test and signaled her team to be ready. All right, Iviki said, his tone unwavering. It's time for the 10th question. Before I give it, there are some additional rules. First, you may choose whether to take it or not. A hushed wave of murmurs spread through the room. If you choose not to take the question, your points will be reduced to 0, and your team will fail. However, if you accept the question and answer incorrectly, you will be barred from ever taking the Chunin exams again. Gasps echoed throughout the room. A few participants hesitated before raising their hands to withdraw, leaving about 20 teams remaining. Iviki smirked. Very well. For those who stayed, there's only one thing left to say. Congratulations. You've passed the first part of the Chunin exams. The remaining Jinan were stunned but visibly relieved. Ibiki then explained the reasoning behind the test, just as a sudden crash echoed through the room. A black ball burst through the window, unfurling a massive banner that read, "The super talented proctor of the second exam, Anko Mitarashi." Standing in front of it was a grinning Kunoichi. The room fell silent in surprise. Some of the male Jinan looked flustered, while many of the female participants shot her envious glances. Naruko smirked. Classic Anko. With her in charge of the next exam, things are about to get interesting. Alright, listen up. Anko announced with enthusiasm. No time to rest. You all have 10 minutes to get to training ground 44 for the second part of the exam. The room remained still. What are you waiting for? An invitation? Move it. In an instant, the room cleared as the Jinan rushed toward their next challenge. Anko turned to Ibiki with a grin. I'll see you later, Ibiki. Let's see how many of these kids survive my test. Dear YouTube family. That's all for now, but the journey doesn't end here. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay tuned for more exciting parts. Your support means the world. Until next time, stay awesome and keep the fandom alive. Best regards. 6 Path Weeb.